Yo, fam, hold on to your seats, because what I'm about to show you might actually make your jaw hit the floor. Birdman, yeah, the same cash money mogul who built an empire, put Lil Wayne and Drake on the map, and literally made diamonds a lifestyle, has just had his entire legacy thrown into chaos. You thought the Versus meltdown was wild? That was just the appetizer. Now, in late December 2025, Birdman's own affiliates have leaked footage so shocking, so unhinged, that the streets are calling it terrifying, chilling, and in some corners, downright unbelievable. But what actually went down? Did Birdman snap on camera? Did decades of power, money, and influence finally crumble in front of millions of fans? And why are people comparing this footage to some kind of mafia interrogation tape? We've got insider accounts, alleged leaked clips, and sources saying that what you're about to see is far bigger than just a bad night at Complex Con. This isn't a simple viral moment. This is a full-blown storm threatening to rewrite everything we thought we knew about Birdman, his empire, and the people closest to him. So, the question is, are we witnessing the fall of a mogul, or is this just another chapter in a story that's been decades in the making? Buckle up, because this one, oh, it's going to get messy. October 25th, 2025, Complex Con. Las Vegas, the night was supposed to be a celebration of hip-hop legends, a showdown for the ages. Cash Money Records versus No Limit Records, two empires born out of New Orleans, both defining Southern rap in ways that still echo through the streets today. Fans lined up, cameras were rolling, and the hype was insane. But if you think this was just another battle, think again. Because behind the music, behind the lights, something much darker was bubbling, and nobody could have predicted how it would explode. Birdman pulled up with his crew BG, Juvenile, Manny Freshhand, what was billed as a partial Hot Boys reunion. But the energy was off from the jump. Lil Wayne? Not there. Turk? Not there. Technical glitches plagued the stage. The crowd could sense something was off, that tension simmering just beneath the surface. Meanwhile, No Limit rolled through like they owned the place. Master P, Mia X, Silk the Shocker, Mystical, and the one that made the entire crowd lose their minds, Snoop Dogg, who, mind you, hasn't performed under No Limit in over 2 decades. When Snoop hit the stage with Down For My featuring C, Murder, and Magic, the audience erupted. Phones were out, clips went viral. And Birdman? He looked like a man slowly realizing that control was slipping right through his fingers. The problem wasn't just the performance. It was the narrative. For decades, Birdman has built an empire on dominance. Cash Money wasn't just a label, it was a lifestyle, a legacy, a statement. But seeing No Limit command the crowd, seeing Snoop bring that energy, seeing the absences of Wayne and Turk, something in Birdman snapped. And the moment that would define the night didn't happen on stage. It happened afterward, outside the venue. Cameras caught Birdman interacting with Kenny Brooks, the viral Detroit comedian known for his over-the-top sales antics. Brooks approached with a friendly pitch, offering some sort of ridiculous, playful product, probably expecting a quick laugh. But Birdman misread it entirely. Something as innocent as, "I got the best thing since cake and ice cream," became a trigger. Birdman's eyes narrowed. His tone shifted. "Buy you something to play with," he said, the words slicing through the night air. The clip spread faster than wildfire. Social media went crazy. Memes popped up immediately. People debated whether Birdman was serious, joking, or losing control. The truth? Probably all three, but let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't just a random viral moment. The footage Birdman's affiliates started leaking in the weeks after Complex Con painted a far more disturbing picture. Clips described as chilling and intense emerged, showing interactions with NBA YoungBoy that insiders said were emotionally manipulative and controlling. And the pattern? It was all too familiar. Lil Wayne called Birdman daddy for years, only to publicly accuse him of holding him prisoner under Cash Money contracts. Juvenile, BG, Manny Fresh, Turk, they all had stories that mirrored the same arc. Mentorship turned exploitation, success turned into legal battles. And now, 2025 was repeating the script. With NBA YoungBoy caught in the middle, the December clip of Birdman and Youngboy didn't come with context. But the public reaction was immediate and brutal. Fans debated for hours. Some defended Birdman, pointing to his track record of building careers, throwing billions at artists like Drake, Nicki Minaj, and Lil Wayne. Others said the clip confirmed everything they'd suspected for years, that Birdman's mentorship is just a thinly veiled form of control, that emotional manipulation and financial exploitation are part of the package when you sign with Cash Money. Online threads erupted, quoting lyrics, referencing lawsuits, and dissecting every movement Birdman made on camera. The energy was feverish. The narrative wasn't just viral, it was explosive. Now, let's rewind a bit because you can't understand the December footage without seeing the trajectory of Birdman's career. In 1991, Birdman and his brother Slim founded Cash Money Records. They were hustlers from New Orleans, building a label that would eventually dominate the southern hip-hop scene. But the empire was built on more than just talent, it was built on control. Lil Wayne was signed at 12 years old. By 1999, the Hot Boys Wayne, Juvenile, BG, Turk were household names. Hits like Back That Ass Up and Bling Bling weren't just songs. They were cultural moments. Yet behind the scenes, money was a problem. Wayne famously accused Birdman of withholding millions in royalties. Juvenile, BG, Manny Fresh, and Turk all had similar complaints: unpaid work, restrictive contracts, and a system that benefited Birdman disproportionately. It's the pattern that's key here. Young artists, bright futures, massive hits, then legal battles. Birdman's affiliates argue that he's just protecting his business, that he gives more than most labels could dream of. But the courts, the lawsuits, the public feuds, they paint a more complicated picture. This pattern resurfaced with NBA Youngboy. Sources say Birdman took financial control early, allegedly guided the young rapper through legal troubles, and positioned himself as a father figure. But by 2024, diss tracks like Tears of War accused Birdman of betrayal. The lyrics were cutting. New Stunna never loved me. Should have listened to Carter. The implication was clear: Youngboy felt exploited, abandoned, and trapped in the same cycle that has haunted Cash Money for decades. And the fans? Oh, the fans noticed. Clips from Youngboy's house arrest, behind-the-scenes studio footage, and public appearances fueled speculation. The streets weren't just talking about Complex Con or the Kenny Brooks confrontation anymore, they were connecting the dots across decades. Lil Wayne's Twitter battles, Juvenile's lawsuits, BG's prison statements, and now Youngboy's diss tracks, it all added up. Birdman's empire was impressive, sure, but it wasn't unblemished. And suddenly, the veneer of control, of dominance, of being the ultimate mogul, started to crack. But here's the kicker: Birdman's influence is still massive. His reach, his money, his ability to make stars out of raw talent, there's no denying it. Drake, Nicki, Wayne, Youngboy, they all owe massive portions of their careers to him. And that's what makes this scandal so tense. It's not just a random viral clip. It's the moment the public starts asking how much of that influence came at a cost. How many young artists were used, manipulated, or trapped to build an empire that continues to shine while the people behind the hits fight just to get paid? The questions are heavy, and the footage is only making them heavier, and that brings us right back to Complex Con. The stage, the lights, the performances, they were supposed to celebrate legacy, power, history. Instead, it became the launchpad for an explosion of drama that would carry through the rest of 2025. Fans watching on Apple Music saw No Limit dominate, saw Cash Money struggle, and saw Birdman visibly flustered. The media latched on. Social feeds exploded. And Birdman, the mogul who thrives on dominance, found himself in a position he hasn't faced in decades, under scrutiny. Out of control and publicly questioned. By the time December rolled around, the leaks started. Affiliates who may have had their own grudges or agendas dropped clips, showing Birdman in interactions with NBA Youngboy that were described by insiders as manipulative, controlling, and unnerving. Clips showed Birdman coaching, correcting, and sometimes pressuring the young rapper with a tone that some interpreted as aggressive. Social media went into overdrive. Analysts, bloggers, and hip-hop commentators dissected every movement, every word, connecting it to Birdman's history with Wayne. Juvenile, BG, and Manny Fresh, the narrative was clear, pattern recognition, history repeating itself. And for the first time in years, Birdman wasn't the untouchable mogul in control of the story, he was the story. So, as we move into the next chapter of this saga, the questions linger. Will this pattern continue? Is NBA Youngboy the next in a line of artists who feel trapped, manipulated, or exploited? Or is this just a misreading, another viral moment blown up by the internet? One thing's for sure, the footage, the leaks, and the public reaction have reignited a decades-long debate about power, influence, and ethics in hip-hop. And if you think what you've seen so far is the climax, think again. Because the real fallout, the drama, the confrontation, the accusations that could shake an empire, that's coming next. And here's where things start to get really messy. Because once those clips hit the internet, it wasn't just fans talking anymore, it was a full-on investigation into the Birdman empire. Social media blew up overnight. Anonymous sources, some claiming to be inside Cash Money, started posting screenshots, texts, and videos alleging that the mogul's behavior went far beyond what anyone had imagined. People were saying he wasn't just manipulating artists emotionally, he was controlling finances, making questionable business moves, and creating situations that left younger talent financially and psychologically trapped. One anonymous source, who claimed to have worked for the label for over a decade, told us, "You think the Youngboy situation is bad? That's just the tip of the iceberg. Birdman's always run a tight ship, but there's a reason every big artist he's ever worked with has legal battles later. It's not coincidence, it's how the system works." The leaks didn't stop there. Insiders reported lavish spending that was jaw-dropping even by hip-hop mogul standards. Cars that could drive themselves, yachts bigger than small football fields, custom diamond chains that make your head spin. But it wasn't just the money, it was the control. Sources said Birdman allegedly kept detailed spreadsheets tracking artist income, tour revenue, streaming profits, and personal expenditures. Everything was monitored, everything was noted, and every decision seemed to benefit him disproportionately. A former producer, speaking on condition of anonymity, explained, "It's like Birdman built an empire on loyalty. But loyalty only goes one way. You give everything you have to Cash Money, and what do you get? Half the money, full stress, and a constant reminder that you're replaceable." The public reaction was insane. Memes comparing Birdman to everything from mafia bosses to cartoon villains flooded Twitter and Instagram. Hip-hop forums were dissecting the footage frame by frame, arguing about body language, tone of voice, and the chilling energy emanating from Birdman in every clip. Some commentators argued that the December footage was evidence of a darker side, a man so consumed by empire building and control that even the artists he claims to mentor were trapped in his shadow. Others defended him, pointing to his track record. Drake, Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, NBA Youngboy, all massive stars under his umbrella. "The man builds careers," one fan wrote. "Do we really want to ignore that?" But even defenders couldn't fully explain why the pattern kept repeating, and speaking of patterns, let's talk history. Because Birdman's career is a roadmap of controversies that always seem to follow the same trajectory. Lil Wayne, signed at 12, skyrocketed to global superstardom. But then came lawsuits, accusations of withheld funds, and the infamous Carter v. delays. Juvenile and BG left the label amid disputes over royalties. Manny Fresh exited after alleging he wasn't paid properly for producing some of Cash Money's biggest hits. Turk sued for $1.3 million over unpaid contributions. Even today, fans and insiders can't stop talking about the Cash Money cycle. Artist rises, artist profits, artist feels trapped, legal battles ensue. And now, according to leaked clips and insider testimony, NBA Youngboy appears to be stepping into the same storyline years later, in 2025, but it wasn't just history repeating, it was escalation. According to multiple sources, Birdman allegedly exerted pressure over Youngboy's career decisions, contracts, and even personal relationships. Videos show tense exchanges where Birdman's tone shifts from supportive to controlling in seconds. One source told us, "I've never seen a mentorship like this. It's like he's always 2 steps ahead emotionally. He guides, but it's also manipulation. Young boy trusts him, but he's walking a tightrope every day." And while we can't verify every clip, the consistency of the accounts was enough to set the streets on fire. Fans weren't just speculating, they were convinced something bigger was going on, a deep, calculated pattern of control running through the decades. Then came the most viral moments. Clips showing Birdman outside the complex con venue, interacting with Kenny Brooks, and allegedly saying things like, "buy you something to play with," which social media instantly ran with. Was it a harmless joke? Or a warning? The internet exploded with theories. Some said it was a subtle power move, a reminder that Birdman sets the rules. Others joked about it endlessly, creating a flood of memes and reaction videos. But beneath the humor, there was tension. People were noticing the same behavior patterns that history had shown, a mogul asserting control in public, sending unmistakable signals about who's in and who's out. And for the first time, these signals were being dissected in real time across millions of eyes. The alleged financial manipulation was another layer of the scandal. Insiders claimed that Birdman maintained tight control over artist contracts, often taking disproportionate percentages from streaming revenue, tour profits, and merchandising. Some claimed Young Boy was only seeing a fraction of his actual earnings, with Birdman's team reportedly overseeing every transaction. One former Cash Money accountant, speaking anonymously, said, "It's not illegal, technically. Everything's in the contract. But morally, it's a different story. You've got kids signing deals they barely understand, and by the time they realize, it's too late." Birdman's empire grows, and the artist? They fight just to get what's rightfully theirs. Public speculation reached a fever pitch when bloggers connected the dots between Birdman's December footage and past allegations. Comment threads quoted lyrics from Tears of War, referencing betrayal and mistrust. Others compared Young Boy's situation to Wayne's famous feud with Birdman, pointing out uncanny similarities. Social media users debated endlessly. "History is repeating," one wrote. "Birdman is building stars and chains at the same time." Another commented, "It's a mogul problem, not a kid problem. Young Boy isn't alone. He's just the latest in a decades-long pattern." And then there was the question of physical and emotional intimidation. Multiple anonymous insiders alleged that Birdman's presence alone could shift moods and decisions within the label. One former tour manager claimed, "He doesn't need to raise his voice. You feel it in your chest. His approval is currency, and his disapproval? That's punishment. Everyone who's worked with him knows it. Some of the best artists in the world feel that pressure daily. You walk a fine line between loyalty and fear." This created an almost cult-like atmosphere, according to some, where Birdman's influence extended beyond contracts, tours, and music into the very psychology of the people around him. And while the internet was dissecting these clips, the money was another layer that couldn't be ignored. Birdman's personal wealth is legendary billions, yachts, private jets, custom chains, luxury cars. But insiders allege that some of this wealth came at the expense of the very artists who built it. Reports of uneven splits, hidden clauses, and financial oversight that benefits only Birdman began circulating. One source said, "It's brilliant and scary. You build careers, you make billions, and you keep it all moving in one direction up. But if you're an artist, you better read the fine print or get left behind." Meanwhile, NBA YoungBoy fans went into overdrive. Videos of him performing, studio sessions, and interactions with Birdman were uploaded and analyzed to the second. Fans speculated that YoungBoy's recent social media silence was strategic, possibly forced, possibly a reaction to Birdman's influence. "This is exactly what happened with Wayne," one commenter wrote. "Young Boy just hasn't realized it yet." The comparisons fueled further discussions about ethical practices in hip-hop and mentorship in the music business, sparking debates from casual fans to major hip-hop journalists. And as December turned into January 2026, The public debate became unavoidable. Major hip-hop outlets ran stories linking Birdman's leaked footage to a broader pattern of artist control and financial manipulation. DJs, commentators, and even other artists weighed in. Some defended Birdman as a mogul who builds careers. Others painted him as a master manipulator with a decades-long history of exploiting talent. Even Wendy Day, the renowned artist advocate, commented in a live stream about the risks artists face when signing with powerhouse labels. She noted, young artists are vulnerable. When someone like Birdman takes control, it's not just business, it's emotional, financial, and psychological influence. And history shows it rarely ends well for the artist. So, as the internet exploded and insiders continued to leak information, the story was no longer just about one viral clip or a night at Complex Con. It was about decades of influence, repeated patterns, and the tension between mentorship and manipulation. Fans, commentators, and insiders alike were forced to ask, is Birdman a genius mogul, a father figure, or something far more troubling? The speculation, the drama, the memes, the analysis, all of it set the stage for what could be the most explosive chapter yet. And that's where we leave things. For now, because what happens next isn't just public opinion. It's fallout, it's potential investigations, legal scrutiny, and public backlash that could shake the very foundation of Cash Money Records. And trust me, the streets aren't ready for the next wave. The streets aren't ready for the next wave. By January 2026, what started as a viral clip had morphed into a full-blown crisis for Birdman. The footage circulating online didn't just spark memes or fan debates. It reignited every accusation leveled at him over the past 3 decades. Social media was relentless. Twitter threads, TikTok breakdowns, and Instagram reels dissected every movement, every word, every glance. And the street talk? Brutal. It's the same script, one fan wrote. Birdman builds stars and breaks them emotionally. Another commented, history repeats. Wayne, Juvenile, BG, Young Boy. It's always the same. The narrative wasn't just sticky, it was viral, explosive, and dangerous. Meanwhile, inside Cash Money, whispers of internal chaos began to leak. Alleged memos circulated online claiming that the label was in turmoil. Staffers reportedly feared reprisals for speaking out. One anonymous former employee said, "It's like working in a gold-plated cage. You get money, perks, everything, but cross the wrong line, and suddenly you're persona non grata." Birdman controls the narrative, and if you're not careful, you become the story instead of making it. These claims weren't easily dismissed because history shows a pattern: loyal employees. Rising stars and creative partners eventually clash with Birdman's system. The more the leaked footage circulated, the more intense the scrutiny became. Legal speculation surged. Lawyers and commentators began discussing potential avenues for investigation, both civil and criminal. Could the interactions with NBA YoungBoy be interpreted as emotional coercion or financial exploitation? Could contracts be scrutinized for predatory clauses? Could the IRS or federal agencies examine alleged mismanagement of artist royalties? Online legal analysts debated, each opinion more dramatic than the last. Some claimed Birdman's decades-long empire could face lawsuits that dwarf even Lil Wayne's famous $51 million suit. Others argued, this is the man who built Young Money, Drake, Nicki, and more. Do you really think the system can touch him? But even skeptics admitted the optics were damaging. A PR nightmare that could escalate if more insiders came forward. Meanwhile, public backlash was relentless. Fans of NBA YoungBoy flooded Birdman's social media, demanding answers, explanations, and accountability. Memes likened Birdman to everything from mafia bosses to circus ringmasters. Parody accounts spun entire alternate histories of Cash Money as a school for broken artists. The pressure wasn't just online. Radio hosts, podcasters, and hip-hop journalists dissected the story in real time. Every appearance, every interview, every social media post from Birdman was scrutinized for hidden meaning. Was he dismissive? Defensive? Manipulative? Every word became ammunition. Then there were the speculative resignations. Industry insiders suggested that some affiliates within Cash Money were quietly stepping back, distancing themselves from the mogul. One unnamed executive supposedly told reporters, "I've built my career with Cash Money, but even I can see the storm coming. It's not safe to be associated with Birdman right now." Others speculated that certain business partners might reconsider contracts, investments, and collaborations. The empire, long thought untouchable, suddenly looked vulnerable under the glare of viral scrutiny and decades of unresolved allegations. The financial narrative became even juicier. Anonymous sources claimed Birdman was scrambling to secure assets, moving money through complex channels, and reassessing artist contracts in response to potential lawsuits. One insider said, "When the footage hit, the mood shifted overnight. Deals are being renegotiated, cash is being moved, legal teams are on high alert. The empire looks shiny on the outside, but behind the doors, panic." Analysts online started drawing wild, yet compelling, theories. What if some of the legendary stars under Cash Money decide to audit their earnings? What if disputes emerge over unpaid royalties, residuals, or tour profits? The potential for massive financial fallout was enormous. Meanwhile, NBA YoungBoy's fanbase became a movement. Supporters demanded transparency, demanded justice, demanded the truth. Hashtags trended across social media. Hashtag Birdman exposed. Hashtag YoungBoy deserves better. Hashtag Cash Money drama. Influencers posted side-by-side comparisons of historical footage with the December 2025 clip, highlighting patterns of alleged manipulation. Public perception began shifting, even among casual fans. For the first time in decades, Birdman wasn't untouchable. The conversation wasn't just about music, it was about ethics, power dynamics, and exploitation in the hip-hop industry, and then of course came the conspiracy theories. Social media theorists suggested that Birdman's affiliates leaked the footage intentionally, perhaps to consolidate power, distract from internal issues, or control the narrative before any legal scrutiny could arise. "This isn't just about YoungBoy," one commenter wrote. "This is about decades of empire management. Making sure the right story gets out before anyone can ask the wrong questions." Others speculated that this could be a setup for a wider industry shakeup, involving contracts, labels, and the very structure of Cash Money Records itself. Whether true or not, these theories fueled the fire. Hollywood and pop culture couldn't resist weighing in. Late-night talk shows joked about Birdman, drawing comparisons to mafia bosses and overbearing fathers. Music journalists wrote think pieces linking the Cash Money saga to broader trends of mentorship, control, and exploitation in the entertainment industry. Even mainstream outlets began covering the story with cautionary headlines. Hip-hop mogul under scrutiny after viral footage, and Birdman, father figure or controlling tycoon. It wasn't just hip-hop anymore, the story was becoming a cultural moment, a lens through which fans examined power, wealth, and influence in music. And while all this was happening, insiders hinted at potential government attention. While no formal investigations had been confirmed, speculation ran wild. Could there be federal probes into royalty payments, financial mismanagement, or even alleged coercion? One source claimed, if someone digs deep enough, this could touch decades of contracts, tours, and streaming revenue. Birdman built a kingdom, but kingdoms have cracks. The thought alone had fans buzzing. What if one viral clip unravels an empire? Birdman himself remained largely silent. No statements, no clarifications, no interviews addressing the December footage or the growing outrage. The silence spoke volumes. Was it strategy? Was it fear? Was it acknowledgement that even a mogul's empire can be shaken? Every day of silence fed the narrative, making fans, journalists, and insiders wonder, how much control does he really have and how much is slipping away? And then came the hypotheticals, resignations, label shakeups, legal actions. One blogger predicted, if this continues, we could see executives quitting, artists renegotiating, lawsuits flying. The empire isn't collapsing yet, but it's wobbling. Others speculated on financial crises, stalled projects, delayed releases, or renegotiated tours. And if history is any guide, it wouldn't just be about money. Emotional fallout, fractured relationships, and public trust, all of it was on the line. Birdman's empire is legendary, yes. But even legends can falter when decades of unresolved issues converge in one viral moment. And what about the human element? NBA YoungBoy, the latest in a decades-long line of artists caught in the eye of the storm, was reportedly dealing with a mix of emotions. Fans speculated online, frustration, betrayal, gratitude, or perhaps exhaustion from navigating an empire built on both mentorship and manipulation. For the public, it became an emotional roller coaster watching history repeat itself while hoping the cycle could finally break. Every new clip, every leak, every insider account added fuel to the fire. As January 2026 progressed, the story showed no signs of slowing down. Industry insiders, journalists, and fans alike waited for the next move. Would Birdman respond? Would NBA YoungBoy speak out? Would more affiliates leak information? Could legal action finally be taken? The suspense was unbearable. The narrative that began with a viral clip of a mogul telling a comedian to buy something to play with had evolved into a decade-spanning saga of power, influence, financial manipulation, and emotional control, and maybe the most shocking part of all, despite the controversy, despite the viral clips, despite the outrage and speculation, Birdman's influence remains enormous. The man who built Cash Money Records, who nurtured Lil Wayne, Drake, Nicki Minaj, and NBA YoungBoy, still commands attention. But for the first time in decades, the story isn't just about his triumphs, it's about accountability, consequences, and the shadow side of empire building. Fans, insiders, and critics are all waiting, watching, and debating. How far will this fallout go? And who, if anyone, will finally break the pattern? The empire is still standing. The mogul is still a figure of immense influence. But the cracks are visible now, the tension undeniable, and the consequences inevitable. And as history shows, when the pattern repeats itself, the results are rarely pretty. So now the question is, what happens next? Is Birdman really the legendary mogul we've been taught to revere, or is this the moment the empire starts to crumble? Are NBA YoungBoy and the next generation finally standing up to decades of control, manipulation, and shady business? And the bigger question, how many more artists have stories that haven't been told yet? Stories that could make this look like just the tip of the iceberg. We've seen the clips, the leaks, the patterns repeating over decades. With